Hello and welcome to A Gypsy's Kiss, the vlog. I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Stick around for a few seconds and I'll tell you about the 9 clues in Forrest Fenn's poem.
So, the 9 clues in Forrest Fenn's poem. Let's talk about that.
We have to, sooner or later. We know that there are 9 clues. We know that we have to talk about them because that's how we're going to get to the treasure.
That's right.
So let's start with what we know as facts. All right. Number 1, Fenn told us in The Thrill of the Chase that there are 9 clues in the poem.
Right.
He told us at Moby Dickens that the 9 clues are contiguous, meaning they are stuck to one another in order in the poem. In The Thrill of the Chase, he told us that if you followed them precisely, it would take you to the treasure. At Moby Dickens and at The Lure, he said several people deciphered the first 2 clues and then gone past the treasure. Right? Didn't say drive, didn't say walked. I think in one case he said walked, but since then he's used gone past the treasure. At Moby Dickens, he told us there's an additional unintended clue in the preface of Too Far to Walk, his book, Too Far to Walk, and that in his words, not his exact words, but his words is, and it wouldn't take a genius to figure out what it was. So, and honestly, it didn't. At The Lure, he told us at the post-screening presentation at The Lure, he told us that you have to start with the first clue. And then in this newly rediscovered interview from April 2013 with Radio New Zealand, he said the first clue is begin at where warm waters halt, without equivocation.
Now, he said these things more than one time and in other places, but these are specific sightings. So if you had any questions, you know where to find them.
Where to go look them. That's right. Those are specific. Specific citations for times that he has, as you said those more than once. So here's the poem. I'm not going to recite it.
Good.
It consists of 6 stanzas, 24 lines. Each stanza is 4 lines on its own. It sticks to my 3-6-9 theory of Fenn, of who Fenn is.
Okay.
Even though you think he's a 7.
Numerology says he's a 7.
I like him as a 3-6-9.
Okay.
Not that the 3-6-9 is a numerological thing. So
That's right.
So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the first stanza. We don't need it.
Right.
Now, let me put a caveat on that. Fenn says that you know what it is? Fenn and poem. That's what's coming out. Fenn says that every word in the poem is important. And we agree. Every word is important. Every word in the poem is important. But every word is not part of the 9 clues.
Every word in a contract is important.
That's correct. And that's what this is. This is part of a contract that will not be important to you as you're looking for the treasure, but will be really important to your attorney after you find the treasure, because it establishes ownership and sanity, basically.
Right, and that he
and
was
free
not
will.
Right, free will. He was not coerced into doing this. He did it on his own because he wanted to.
That's right. So the second thing that we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the last 2 stanzas for pretty much the same reason. It's legal mumbo jumbo for all intents and purposes. Maybe
And
it's
if you
not
watch
mumbo
our
jumbo.
sandwich episode, you'll understand that this and this is the bread,
Right.
and this is just some lettuce, I think.
Yeah, it's not even there. So in 5, he establishes that it's a trove, which is a legal definition, and here he establishes that he transfers the title to the finder of the gold.
Right.
So, like I said, it's not going to be important to you when you in finding the gold, but it is definitely going to be important to the attorney that you hire after you've found the gold, and he's trying to cover your butt, basically. So, what does that leave us with? Oh, there was 2 other things. I want to eliminate the last 2 lines of the 4th stanza. Terry Scant with marvel gaze. Just take the chest, but Terry Scant, just take the chest and go in peace. I don't feel like that's a clue. I think that's more some good advice. Don't hang around. Don't dance at the chest. Grab the thing, put it in your backpack or 2 backpacks or whatever it is, and get the heck out of town.
So interestingly, we start with begin And we end with cease.
That's what became obvious to us, right? Is that if you're going to have 9 clues, why not start them with begin and end them with end for all intents and purposes? So here's what you end up with in terms of the 9 clues. And these I am going to read. Number 1, begin at where warm waters halt. Number 2, take it in the canyon down. Number 3, not far, but too far to walk. And we may have an idea of what that is from the book, Too Far, the preface of the book, Too Far to Walk. Put in below the home of brown, number 4. Number 5, it's no place for the meek. Number 6, the end is ever drawing nigh. Number 7, there'll be no paddle up your creek. Number 8, just heavy loads and waters high. Number 9, be wise if you've been wise and found the blaze. Look quickly down your quest to cease. I do not feel like look quickly down your quest to cease is one of the clues. It's simply some really good advice. And what I've done is broken the poem down kind of like we did in the sandwich, but I've added one element in the sandwich video. Like, we're making sandwiches with this stuff.
Yes.
So there are basically...
Because it's food for thought. Go on.
Puns. It's basically 3 groups, grouped into 3, with some good advice. So group number 1 is instructional. He's giving you a set of instructions to follow. And all you have to do is figure out what the instructions are metaphors for. Is that a good, can you do that in grammar? Metaphors for?
Well,
group number 2 is environmental. Once you've followed these instructions, which to me implies that you're going to be in a lot of motion, in motion.
right.
Then you're going to find yourself in a location that has these environmental characteristics. Then, eventually, you're going to be wise in some way and find the blaze. That's the conditional one. And the reason I call that conditional is because that's Fenn's challenge in the poem. If you've been wise, the question you have to ask yourself, wiser than what? And the answer is wiser than him. If you've been wiser than him and found the blaze, the condition, then look quickly down. Your quest is over. You've found it. And so I think there's some sense to the manner in which he's organized the 9 clues in the 3 areas without much of a stretch. And it's very Fenny to me. It makes a lot of sense from my knowledge of Fenn's behaviors to me that he would do it this way. So that's it. Those are the 9 clues. You can start from there. I noticed 2 other things. Well, it's actually one thing, but in 2 ways. It was curious to me, what?
Yeah.
No, what? Did I say something wrong?
No.
Oh, okay. So I noticed 2 things. Number 1, in his instructional section, he starts sounding like a pilot, and he uses altitude in terms of a reference point. And in the case of the instructions, the altitude is down. He uses down and below. In the environmental stage, things get positive. You're kind of where you are. And things come up and high. So maybe I should have reversed the colors. I don't know. So I just thought it was an interesting, I don't know, A, if it means anything, and B, if it means something, what it is. At this point, I just thought it was curious. Now, he does have another altitude reference down here. Look quickly down, but I don't consider this part of the 9 clues. It's just that advice he's given us once we've supposedly found the treasure.
Right. You're already there at this point.
Right. You're here at the blaze. That's where the blaze becomes so important. And it's still a clue. I mean, that's the blaze is, again, in terms of, puzzles, ciphers, idioms, metaphors, you still have to figure out what that means. But now you know where to start. So those are the 9 clues. And I want to leave you with some recommendations. Okay? Number 1, because every word in the poem is important, Fenn has said, The first, fifth, and sixth stanzas won't be important until you go visit the attorney that you're going to hire, ideally a tax attorney, after you find the treasure. Should be the first person you see. Before you go back and tell your spouse or significant other, go find a good tax attorney, preferably in Washington, D.C. Then show him those stanzas, first, fifth, and sixth. He will get it totally. Mm-hmm. The 9 clues are obvious if you listen to Fenn. He tells you everything you need to know about the 9 clues, where to begin, where to end, that they're in a contiguous order, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I don't know how at this can be equivocated. You can't. It's hard to debate once you just listen to Fenn. After that, you're making up stuff. If you can likely find the first 2 clues. Begin at where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down from your zoomed in image of Google Earth. After that, you better have some boots on the ground. And I think one thing else I can say here, if you're traveling from one end of Yellowstone to the other, mm-hmm. or from Cody, Wyoming to, I don't know, Riverton in your search, there's something crazy about that. You shouldn't be traveling miles and miles and miles. You should be traveling a short distance by car and a short distance by foot. And you shouldn't be doing this all day long. Right? It's not a multi-day search, and it's certainly not driving across Yellowstone to get from, West Yellowstone to the junction of the confluence of the Madison and the Firehole. That's way too much.
But that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, well, it is. Okay. So, first 2 clues, you can see it from the security and luxury of the chair in front of your computer, and then it's boots on the ground. And then this kind of final recommendation, and this has to do with a frustration for me that you've probably heard in the last couple of episodes that we've done. I'm going to strongly recommend that you spend less and less time in the chat rooms and forums. And the reason is I have yet to find anything of real true value in any of them. I hear a lot of conversations, I hear a lot of discussion, I hear a lot of debate, some of which I've heard, or I'm sorry, not heard, but read for 7 years. And I think you can get trapped up in it. You now know what the 9 clues are. So my recommendation is get your butt out of those places, spend time doing your own research, and come to your own conclusions, and then get some boots on the ground. Because sitting there debating these issues ad infinitum is not going to get you closer to that treasure. I can guarantee you. And to prove it, here's what I'll do. Go visit those forums, pick at random one of the topics, go through the topic, and come back here in the comments and write one piece of information that you truly found useful and gets you closer to that treasure. So there.
And
Got
just to let you know that, we walk the walk as well as talk the talk. We are going on a recon very soon, within the next week. So we'll let you know about that when we get back.
Yeah, it's you've heard us, as Shelley said, you've heard us talk this talk. I had to admit that my theory of it being in New Mexico was changed after Forrest announced some different things. And so to prove that we believe in our own talk, we're actually headed out next week for a location outside of New Mexico. And we'll share that with you when we get back. Mm-hmm. But we are going to produce a show for next week.
Oh, yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah.
Weekly vlog.
And that show is going to be how you...
Me.
You. Can reduce the area of your search to 2 square miles before you leave your computer and put boots on the ground. Now, that doesn't mean that it's the right 2 square miles, but I'm going to reduce the dimensions of your search down to those 2 square miles. we'll explain how to do that next show.
How awesome is that? We're going to save you some time, maybe some money. And for A Gypsy's Kiss the Vlog, I'm Shelley Carney.
And I'm Toby Eunice. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.